it.
And when I'm new, I don't want to miss this call either, though.
Yeah,
So,
go for it, man. All right.
okay, well, I'm going to step out. I'll be back as soon as I can.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks, sir.
Cool stuff, Mike. That's great. You know, I've been we've been working with a multi-inspector firm here, and he was joking that because he's got like 10 guys, and he has to be so specific that they're all collecting data the same way, and they've worked really hard on getting a sequence for all their images, just like you were talking about, Mike. And his joke is that his guys could get hit by a bus and he could pick up the camera and do the report from the pictures because they're so specific about what they're going to take pictures of. Kind of interesting. But anyway, yeah, so any other questions, comments on data collection, sequence of data collection?
I do have another comment for some that may not be familiar. If you don't do the camera routine type until the app comes out, you could. I've also used a program called OneNote by Microsoft,
Yep.
and basically you can go in, take a photo, and you can do the same thing. But it's all when I get back to the office. Well, then everything is synced to the computer, and I can bring everything up on OneNote and see the photos as well as my audio comments with the photo.
Wow, cool. That's awesome. You guys familiar with OneNote?
No.
I've seen it. I don't really use it much. It's a Microsoft thing.
So you're saying you're putting OneNote into your photo in OneNote? Is that correct?
Yes, and of course all the photos, will automatically upload to my Google account, and then that way I can just download all the photos directly to the computer and throw them into the folder and take off of the report.
That's pretty cool. We have to have a day where we just turn Mike loose. Mike does all these awesome things with other bits of software that help him optimize his workflow. It's great. It's awesome.
Hi, and everybody. I also have been using my phone camera, and then I upload my photos into. I do exactly what that gentleman just said, and then I can devise my folder where I want the pictures from. From my Google Photos,
Awesome.
put into, and then I can put them right into where your media points to.
And then you also have redundancy in that your stuff is stored in the cloud as well. Is that right, guys? Your photos?
Yes.
Yep. So that's kind of nice just for not losing photos and that sort of thing. Awesome. Great stuff. Okay, so I wanted to switch gears a little and just show what Dan was talking about. First I wanted to show bathrooms and stuff. So right now the default template, you get 4 bathrooms. And let's say you only have 2 bathrooms in the house. You can just get rid of them by going like this. So maybe there's just, I did a house the other day that just had an upstairs and a downstairs bathroom. So we can go here and we can title this upstairs bathroom, and then downstairs. So easy to customize your templates in that way. Let's say you have a house with 2 water heaters. We can go into the plumbing chapter in the water heater section, and we could add another water heater. So now we've got water heater studio, water heater house, something like that. So pretty simple. That makes sense. I mean, it's really pretty intuitive. You've got these plus and minus things, so pretty easy to put in as many water heaters. You can do the same thing. Kitchens comes up a lot, like if you have a little studio or something. Even if I have like full separate building, I'll just roll it into one report, and then kind of just add kitchens and bathrooms and things as needed. So, and then as Dan was talking about, let's go into heating. You can, this little pen gives you an opportunity to add or customize all these little pull downs. So if you're frustrated that, for example, a manufacturer of heat pump isn't here, here's the whole list. You could add in another one. The last time someone came up with Linux, which was awesome. Anybody think of a heat pump we don't have on here?
Oh, there's numerous ones.
Yeah, I just did a ductless one the other day, and it was Fujitsu. So we will save that. Now, here's the key. So now we've saved it to this one template, and frankly, that doesn't help in the sense that you could just type in Fujitsu here if you're just using it.
Spelled it with an I.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry. In any event, let's say you want to save this for your permanent template. This is the magic button for that. So what I would encourage anybody that's newer to ScribeWare, if you want to kind of tweak and dial your templates, is open up a report and just call it, your template report or whatever, and then go through and make those changes. And then whenever you're done, you just hit this little green floppy disk here, and that will save your template. It would be very convenient to be able to make these customizations on the fly while you're working on a report. But the problem is, like, let's say you're working on a report and you've changed the bathrooms and you've changed the kitchen, but then you remember you need to add Fujitsu. If you save it here, your new template will have 2 kitchens and 2 bathrooms, and you probably don't want that. And I've spoken with Steve about this, and unfortunately it's pretty complicated to be able to make changes to the permanent template on the fly like that. So my best advice is to just, when you want to do try to make some notes of little things that are bugging you that you don't have, and then just go and open it up and make those customizations as you want.
So as you go through and add kitchens and remove bathrooms in your chapter list, but that's just custom to the house you're inspecting, you don't want those saved in your permanent template, then clicking that floppy drive, that would in fact save those?
That's right. That would make it your default template from here on out. So when I'm adding kitchens and bathrooms and all that stuff, I'm just doing it for that one house.
But then if you're saying adding a manufacturer to something that you did want to just improve your general library, there's not really a way to make those changes and not have your chapter changes be permanent.
That's right. I mean, it's sort of why ideally what you do is just make a little list of those changes that you want to do and then open up your report. Don't do it while you're working on a report for a specific house. When you do, you will inadvertently make changes to your template that you probably didn't want to make.
And Dylan, you can still change the word residential to residential, any specific subset, correct?
Absolutely. And you could make as many different templates as you want. You can rename the templates, and when you hit this little button, you can change the template name. It's occurred to me, I'm so busy. I got a lot going on. But anyway, I mean, if you had time, you could build an old house template and a new house template, or there's probably a lot of different things you could do there. Yeah.
And that's where I screwed the pooch when I was trying to learn the program, writing a live inspection.
Yeah.
Then I saved it, and it was like, oh, well, now I don't have a crawl space anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry about that. Well, that's why we try to do these meetups. Yeah. And our guys Dan and Steve can help you if you kind of go. We can get you put back together if you do that. But yeah, in my experience, I did the same thing, and so in my experience, it's for template work. I try to just and you never get, if you're on a pay per report plan, you don't get charged by just opening up new reports. You only get charged when you publish a report. So whenever you want, you can open up a new report and just start playing with your template, and no big deal. So that makes sense on template stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to customize all these things. Cool.
And Dylan, when we get started, your baseline library is native to the software?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good question. Let's talk about library customization. So yeah, when you get it just sort of, you get my library for what it's worth. I think it's a pretty great library, but to me, a library is a fluid thing. I'm always changing it. I'm always finding things wrong with it. So let's talk about customization. I mean, the goal is that as soon as you take over your version of ScribeWare, you sort of give birth to your library, and you're constantly changing it. So just real quick while we're on this page, I mean, this is where you fill in client and property information. You can have the agent and the agent name. You pick your template. It's got the date. If you're doing a pest inspection, you can embed the pest inspection right in, which I love. And then you can, if you don't click paid, it will automatically generate an invoice. And if you check paid, you can say whether they paid by cash. So it automatically provides a receipt. So that's pretty simple. So let's go look at how you mess with the template here. Where should we do? We'll go into the crawl space section. So this is how you add an observation. You click on add observation, and you can start typing insulate. And so all of the words that have insulate or all of your observations will come up. The crawl space hatch should be insulated and weather stripped. So I choose it, and that now I'm off and away. Now let's say that Luke wants to write his own observation. So you've written this observation. Now you want to save that to the library. That's where these three buttons come in. So you hit these three buttons. My favorite is to edit in the library. And the reason is you can give it a label. And the label will not print in the report, but it helps you find it again. So you can just type in so now best observation crawl space, we can add this as a new library observation. There's your title for it. We can close out. Now we can type best, and it finds that observation for you. So it's really easy to kind of modify the library. If you, for example, on this first one that I gave, if this is from my library, and if you wanted, you basically wanted to change this, you like generally what it says, but you want to also add, let's see, air sealing here can help prevent the stack effect or something, whatever. So you've added that. Now what you can do is you can just update the library. So that doesn't give you a whole new library entry. You've just added more information to it or changed it. So it's really easy to add your own observations or modify the ones that come standard with ScribeWare.
What were those slide activation button things for, like, this is a frequently used comment?
Yeah.
Edit library.
All right. So that gets you up here. So let's go in there. We're going to edit in. So if it's a media caption, again, ScribeWare's logic is we have a separate library for your main observations and your photo captions. So that's cool. A frequently used observation, you can just toggle this on. And I'm not going to leave this one on because I don't want it in there, but I will show this to you. So on the starting page down here, you've got frequently used observations. So anything you add here, I mean, I work in Western Washington, where basically every building you could prune trees and vegetation off the house. This time of year, the gutters are almost always clogged. If it's an older building, it doesn't meet our AFCI requirements. I'll make a note about that.
Oh, that's just your quick draw, kind of like, let's just knock 10 birds out.
Yeah, that's right. How about, lead and asbestos? If it's pre-1978, I'm going to make a lead and asbestos note. I always put a bathroom testing procedure note in the report. Let's see. This is a good one. No washer. If the washer dryer aren't installed, I really like to make a note that I couldn't test the waste piping. It's a smart one to put in there. And then if the house is on a sewer system, I might put a sewer note to have the sewer line scoped. That makes sense. And so we can put all those in. And so now we could go to plumbing and we could go to waste pipe. And here's our due diligence item that we recommend scoping the sewer. If you want to change the qualifier, you just click on this. You're not going to. We call it a major concern. You could call it a note. You could call it whatever you want. And And if you like a comment, like if you like the sewer scope comment, but you wanted to call it a major concern, and you could update the library, and now every time you pull that up, it will call it a major concern, just to save you a little time. But we call these qualifiers, and any report can be, you can change anything. And we're actually that's on our list, is to try to add a few more qualifiers. But this is and if it's really important, Steve can customize these qualifiers for you.
And Dylan, can you make it so that note does not show up?
Well, yeah, I mean,
on the summary.
If there are no notes, then I don't think it would show up.
Well, no, but I mean, like I put in notes of just basic, new first-time home buyers that are buying a house, and this is something that you should
I know what you're
take
saying.
note of.
Yeah. Dan, I don't think we can control that, but I know that Steve has done that for people. So if you want to, Steve can make it so your notes don't show up. But I think that's one of our things we wanted to be able to make you be able to customize it on your own. In other words, you would be able to control, like, well, I only want the major concerns and the repairs to show up in the summary. And at the moment, I don't think it's set up like that. But Dan, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, you said is accurate there. I do think that would be useful, but I think that's on the list here down the road.
Cool. But yeah, great question. So if that's an issue, just let Steve know, and he can make it so that your notes don't show up in the summary page. That helpful?
Oh yes, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And it's a good call. We're trying to, I think that's a feature request that we have where the inspector could control it. Ideally, Dan, it'd be kind of nice if you could control it per, you have a default setting, but in a particular, you could change it per report if you wanted to,
Yep.
Cool. Let's see, any other things, library, frequently used observations. Anybody have any other questions? And I could keep filling out some bits of report if you wanted to, just to see.
Hey, oftentimes I offer discounts or in the inspection fee, and I like it to show in the invoice or in the receipt.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's not a caption for, reduction of the total cost.
Yeah. So just you just say it like helps if I spell it right. You do military discount, so you could have the fee be, and then and that'll show up it'll all like do the math for you and stuff, I believe. Does that make
Dylan,
sense?
that's too common sense. That's common sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think that let us know if that doesn't work, but I'm pretty sure that's how you would do that.
Hey, Dylan, this is Don.
Hey, Don.
Hey, I might have missed it, and I'm kind of new to all this. So just going back to the photo captions and the library associated with those, or building that library. Can you go over that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So let's go back to that. I think we were in the Windows. So all of these, right? New pictures I'm putting in were in Windows, and I actually might not have a caption for this, but right. So that's pretty good observation. Now I want to save that. Just add the library. So on the photo captions, I basically never use a title because they're so short. I really don't need titles for them. The titles to me are really good when you're in I might have 20 dimensional composition shingle comments, and it's hard to distinguish between them all. So yeah, just type in anything you type in this little box for your photos. If you want to save that to your captions library, you just hit update library, and it'll put them in. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Or actually...
and while you're right there right now, so when you reported on windows not closing in structures as examples of some settlement,
yep,
would those windows photos and an observation also show up in the window section?
Well, you'd have to custom do it, and if I actually, in this case, then I made a separate comment. I used one or two of those window shots in my structure, and then I used the same shot again in the Windows section, and I was recommending a general contractor evaluate the windows as well.
Okay. Okay.
So great question. Yeah. So I listed that twice. We could look at that report. Where was it? Yeah, this was it. So I don't even remember where I put all this stuff, but we can look in there. Actually, let's oops. We'll look at the finished report. You guys want to see what a finished report looks like? We should go over that. So this is what the report looks like when you're finished, and it's got this overview statement on the top. We've got our summary here, and we had 5 major concerns. The siding. Here's the structure that I wrote, and so I used that kind of bullets feature. And then you can see the interior. I recommended additional inspection of the windows as well. So a good call, but I wrote that out separately because you could fix the windows and not do the structure, whatever. The two things were different in my mind, even though they were also related. So you can look at in the summary. Here's all the repair items. So you'll notice the summary does not have any of the pictures, but if you wanted to see the pictures, you could click there, and now you go to the observation in the main report to check out the pictures with the observation. Does that make sense? And everything's got a number. So a huge feature that I can't wait to get that we're working on is the realtors at some point will be able to just highlight and do sort of a drag and drop inspection response so they can just make their own separate report. It's actually surprisingly complicated code-wise, so it sort of hasn't been done yet. But anyway, this is the summary page, and then when you click on the full report, you can see here are all the chapters, and it tells you how many observations there were in each chapter. Let me show you. Let me just show you diagrams real quick. Over here, I didn't show you how you connect your pictures. So this is the media folder, and when you click that, this opens up, all of the area that you can connect your pictures. So I actually use 3 different cameras, sometimes 4. I have 2 infrared cameras, I have a crawl space camera, and I have my main camera. And so a huge pain in the butt for me is making sure all those images end up in the same folder. And then once they do, I connect that folder to this document, and then that's what gives me all these pictures here. If I want to toggle out of pictures and use my diagrams, I can just hit this little grid, and then this is where I've got my diagrams. And you just drag your diagrams in the same way you would a picture, if that makes sense.
Are those kind of a stock type thing, or are those all copyrighted from the world that you've accumulated yourself?
Yeah, I don't even know where I've some of these I've made myself. Some of them I got permission from the guys at Hardy. I taught a class with them to copy their stuff out of their installation guidelines. So a lot are from there. Some I just grabbed off the internet. A couple of them I poached from places. This is an awesome one that Charlie did. This more for Western Washington, but I don't know if you guys know Charlie Buell. He's a friend of mine, but he does crazy great pictures. So he made this floor plan of where AFCIs and GFCIs were required in Washington State. So I'll put that in. This is also, I love this. I snagged this off of something. I can't remember where I got it, but look, this is an awesome graph. This is a GFCI protection in America. So this is the number of GFCI. Let's see, it always takes me a minute to orient myself. GFCIs installed is the blue line, and then overall electrocutions in America. That incredible?
Yeah.
So, I get, that's an example of, if I'm doing an old house and it doesn't meet modern GFCI protection standard, I call it a repair item. And one could argue that it's an improvement item, but you look at this graph. I mean, this $15 receptacle has saved, 1,000 lives a year or something. It's those things are good and cheap. Anyway, cool graph. So, yeah, I mean, if you want some of these, shoot me an email. I can probably send them to you. But to me, that's another one of those. I really like all of CodeCheck's stuff, So you can buy their diagrams for $50. Carson Dunlop has 50,000 of them. I've used a few of them, but they've so many. It's just I can't kind of get my head around how many they have. Anyway, yeah, that's to me one of those, like, if you're a newer inspector, try to just, like, over time you find different places to accumulate the ones that you want. And you see, I don't have a huge list. I don't like doing too many diagrams in a report, but I do, I like having a few of them. So let's see.
So Dylan, you have those diagrams linked from your computer?
Yeah. So what I would do? Let's go into my pictures. You see, I have a separate folder called ScribeWare Diagrams, and I'm pretty sure when you download ScribeWare, you'll get a folder like that that'll just show up in your My Pictures. If not, you can make your own. But basically, when you first click on this, it'll tell you where you want to connect to, and that'll be your diagram. So see up here, I can click on it again, right? So even if you wanted a different folder, does that make sense? So I can choose ScribeWare Diagrams.
Yeah.
I'll select that folder, and now this grid is connected to that particular folder. Now let's say that's a good question. Let's say I added 5 or 6 diagrams. It might not pick them up without you hitting this little refresh button. So the refresh media button allows you, like, if you add more pictures to a folder or something, hit this refresh button, and then ScribeWare will pick up the new images that you've put in that folder.
Okay.
That's a great thing to know about. And at any point, you can hit this guy, and that will allow you to go. It's this back end to your pictures folder. So your pictures folder is really the key to kind of organizing your pictures and then getting them attached to ScribeWare. This media bar here, you can change the size of it, so you can make it bigger. Sometimes when I have a lot of pictures that I kind of know what they're going to be, I'll make them really small just because I can get through a lot of pictures pretty quickly, and then I might get 90% done, and then I'll kind of get this a little bit smaller and make my pictures bigger. But you can kind of fiddle with that as you need to.
You use extra cameras, Dylan, because you're like general site photography and I guess what he was calling CYA type pictures. You don't really import those because it's just static to trying to get things drag and drop. So you really have, like, these are my reporting pictures on a dedicated camera, and then the bulk of your kind of like, here's all the shots of my crawl spaces and attics.
No, that's interesting. No, I don't do it like that. That's an interesting idea. I mean, I put most of my pictures in the report just because it's so easy to add pictures. It doesn't take me any time. Let's get out of this real quick and we'll get back into a demo. But I use different cameras because I got tired of buying fancy cameras because they got destroyed in a crawl space. And so I use like a like kind of waterproof, bomb-proof camera for the crawl space. And sometimes I use it. Yesterday I was doing one in the pouring rain, and I used that camera outside. I just don't want to. I used to buy like a camera every 3 months. It just drove me insane. So I have a crawl space camera, kind of a bulletproof camera. I've got a really high-end, nice camera with like a 60 times zoom lens. I've got 2 infrared cameras. One, I've been using the FLIR C2 infrared camera, which is only $500 or $450. It's not a great imager for building science, but for a lot of the kind of, I use the infrared for a lot of CYA stuff of just like, well, I tested your oven today and it was working, and I'll put a thermal image in. I tested your dryer. Here's all pictures of all your heat ducts working. This one's with my Fluke, which is a little bit nicer machine. Here's, the radiant floor pad was working. So I'll put those in the report. It go to the heating section. We could go to additional heat sources. I'll just start typing in floor. Thermal images show the radiant floor pad working in the bathroom. Just drop that in. So pretty simple to show that you tested stuff. So that's my CYA stuff is often a lot more. There's not a lot of the boilerplate of like that's sort of in a lot of other inspection reports, and I just use testing procedure notes of like, well, all this is what was working today. I tested this stuff, you know. So that's how I do it. Let's see, I think this was a cracked sink. I'm just going to show you a few of these things just to get you a sense. In the upstairs bathroom, the sink was cracked. So you just start typing in crack. The porcelain sink was cracked. You drag the picture in, and you're done with that report. You could call it the upstairs bathroom if you wanted to, you know. You can also, sometimes like in a long observation, I'll use these two to just kind of highlight some text if you want to. But you've got a certain amount. You got the photos in italics here, or the, bold in italics.
And Dylan, I just want to add to what you're saying. All this stuff goes up to the summary for those who haven't used this program. So there's no having to push a button to send it to the summary. It's just the minute you type in a repair, that UB1, upstairs bathroom, that'll go up there and it'll be all sequenced in order.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that's helpful. And I love that. I really like that. You know, let's look at the finished report. I do understand the desire to not have the notes. But, you know, this is also, let me get this out of the way. It's a pretty innocuous, easy to read summary page. I mean, you can just click on what you want and here it all is. So, you know, this idea of like how long is the report, if you print it, then length becomes an issue. But to me, length is kind of no longer an issue. This is such an interactive report. You can kind of bounce around everywhere. Oh, Luke was asking me the other day at an infrared class about pest summary, but here's my pest summary. So you can see it opens up a separate report that's just my pest items. This is what that looks like, Luke.
Thank you.
Yep. And then to go back to the full report, you click on that. So I don't know. I think it's a really cool report, and I've been getting great feedback from my clients of just how easy it is for them to find and get the information they want. The report can be printed to paper, it can be reprinted to PDF, or you can just print out the summary page. And this is one the realtors will use a lot. They'll just print out the summary page, and that's got kind of all their stuff on it. And to that end, not a bad idea. You could get rid of the notes for the summary page. You really don't need them, you know. Not a bad idea. Let's see. I think we were able to cover a lot here today. This is one, the water temp the other day, 140. So we could go into the water heater. I'll start typing in the word scald. Scald hazard, too hot. I'm going to drag this picture in, and then I am going to go in my diagrams. I made this. By the way, if any of you guys join our Facebook page, is where I'll put up some of these diagrams and stuff in our Facebook page. Just that easy way for you to use them. But I copied this off of, or I made my own little slide in PowerPoint. But I mean, this kind of shows you how, you know, at 140 degree water temperature, you can get a scald in less than 5 seconds. So I'll often put that with this, and that's another feature that Dan, we have it down, I think, but I would love to be able to permanently attach a diagram to a specific observation. That would save me a little bit of time.
Yeah, that'd be slick.
Yeah, that's on our list, but
yeah, that'd be a great one, especially because sorting through those huge diagram libraries for kick-out flashing details, it's just like, if you're going to make that comment, it sure would be nice to have that thing there and marry them from the start.
That's right. I know, it would be so much better, and so we're working on that. Again, those I feel bad. A lot of those little tweaks have just been on hold because Dan is working on a scheduling part of the system, which will do contract delivery and allow for online signing of contracts and storage of the contract. So we're pretty excited about that. and Steve's working on the mobile app. So we have a few kind of big pieces we're working on at the moment, which is swallowing up our programming time.
Yeah, Dylan, you had a pretty fluid reading contract from what I recall, and you've chatted a lot about just non-fear-mongering approach to contract, and I sure have appreciated that in your speeches. Is that what do you have recommendations, and then also, aside from what you're doing with your contract, can you discuss a little bit about how the contract delivery and is connected to the report, and is there a contract associated with the report, even if it's not the signed one stored forever?
Yeah, so in the finished report right now, you have the scope and purpose of a home inspection, which is something I wrote, and you're welcome. If you want to customize this, you can copy, paste it, customize it, send it to Steve, and he'll change it so it has whatever you want in there. And this has a link to home inspection standards of practice and the Washington State standards of practice. So I think I have both the ASHI standards and our state standards in here. And if you're in a different state, you could put your local state standards. And then I have a sort of how to read this report where there's a little bit of stuff of kind of, I talk about the moisture meter I use and how to read it. But, before I started on all this, I talked with several attorneys who dealt with this, our industry and litigation. And they were basically like, if you're getting sued, the little boilerplate disclaimer that people put in all their reports is not going to stop somebody from suing you. I mean, if someone's that pissed at you, a lot of things have gone sideways, and this boilerplate is just not going to help you. What will help you is a signed contract. So my focus on sort of covering my butt is have a signed contract that I like and make sure it's signed and I have a copy of it. And that's sort of why we want to make that all stored in the cloud so that it's just, you're safe. We got your back there. And, and you try to write a great report. And I use a lot of these testing procedure notes, and I try to finish the report the next morning, and I try to write a beautiful report. And that way, I mean, I did an inspection yesterday and it was $1,000 inspection fee. And the guy wrote me and said it was the best money he's ever spent in his life. It's like, well, great. That guy's not going to sue me, and even if you find stuff's wrong. I mean, we will miss things. I guarantee it. I know I miss stuff. That's a certainty. So, to me, my way of the way I deal with that stuff is you try to impress people with how hard you're looking for them and how hard you're trying, that they'll understand when you miss something. And I have found that really works well. And it's your best protection. And you can always get one of these awful people. I mean, a friend of mine who was an inspector got sued by this lawyer, and at the end of the whole thing, the lawyer looked at him and said, I knew I was going to sue you the second I met you. I mean, you can't protect yourself against some jerk like that. There's nothing you can do. But you have a signed contract, and at a certain point, you just call your insurance company and tell them to deal with it. That's why you pay for insurance. Mike, you might have some thoughts on this. I don't know if Mike's still on here, but
yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know if you've any. That's always been my way of dealing with it, but that's not the only way.
Well, we won't do an inspection without a signed contract, and we had one the other day that canceled the inspection because of something in our contract. Yep. Our agreement.
Yeah.
And we said, well, hey, good luck to you, but we're not going to change our contract. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, the contract, if you're doing a great job, writing a great report, I mean, honestly, knock on wood, I really don't feel like I have hardly any liability. I've gotten to a point where I just write a good enough report and I know what I'm doing well enough that I don't think I have much liability, and to what extent I do have liability, I have insurance and I get a signed contract. I don't release a report, and so right now we do not have a contract attached to ScribeWare. That's why Dan's working on it. I use the ISN for my scheduling, and that gets the reports delivered digitally, and they can sign them, and it's all stored in the cloud and stuff. So in the event I were to have an issue, I would obviously try to deal with it personally, and then if I've never had to deal with it, but if it got that far, I'd call my insurance company and tell them to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. But that is why we're working on a contract. I don't think we won't be providing a contract. I mean, with that stuff, you really have to talk to your insurance company, and probably smart to have some kind of an attorney that but
yeah.
Let's see. Any other questions? We were able to get a lot done. I didn't do tons on the report, but hopefully you get a sense of kind of how to fill out the report. Do we need to spend any more time on that? Are you guys feeling pretty good about that?
Yes.
This is be another just thing real quick, but like on septic, I'll always take some pictures of the septics, what I see of it. And I think if you're a new guy, this is pretty good. If you're down in if the Palm Springs, I think it was Jim down in Palm Springs, if he's still on here, but there's probably there's probably irrigation and pools, and you might charge extra, and you might do those things. But like where I work, I get these houses have like generators and spas and septic systems, and there's a lot of things that are beyond the scope of an inspection, but I still make a note of it, and like, well, this house has a septic system and I don't inspect it, but here's your alarm and it's on the north side of the house. And people really like that when you go the extra mile beyond the sort of bare minimum SOP. You don't have to spend a ton of time on it, and in my opinion you can still disclaim it, but you can just show people, and I think it gives them a sense that it was a very cohesive inspection.
Yeah, that seems like a really disarming thing to do as well, is to be honest about what you're not doing, but provide the information that you're not doing it, and that if they want to take the next step and scope your sewer or whatever, that is an option, rather than just like not saying anything, kind of keeping them in the blind and letting them find out that, through some other channel that you didn't scope the sewer,
That's right. And it's really important to understand that, we spend all this time training to be home inspectors, and we know the standards of practice, but none of our clients do.
No.
I mean, none of them understand what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do. So you need to kind of hold their hand and walk them through that. And the more you do that, the less likely it is something will go sideways. I mean, one of my arguments about the minimum SOP, you could do minimum SOP inspections all day long, and I would argue that 20 or 30% of your clients could be mad at you. And that's not your fault. You didn't necessarily do something wrong, but I would say there is a pretty large gap between what our minimum standard is and what our clients expect intuitively. And the more you bridge that gap, the less likely it is you're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Amen.
Amen. Cool, guys. Well, I mean, if there's, we could keep. Oh, let me show you one other. Here's another thing. I'll often put, listing plate of the water heater in, or the furnace or whatever. But within your pictures, we can open it up. Obviously, you can draw an arrow on things. You can draw a circle on things. But I really love the crop feature. You can crop in on something and kind of blow it up so that people can read a listing plate or something. Boom. See how it kind of focuses in on something. And then something I use quite a bit, Mike is, I think, really good at this, but Steve built a back end so you can use any kind of aftermarket photo editing software. You click on this guy, and it will, I have it connected to one called paint.net, which is different than the paint that comes on Windows. And I like it just, I can do shapes. We can do a rectangle. Oops. We could put it over here. And then if I want to, I can make it dotted line or something. You could change the color of it. That doesn't work very well. Anyway, that makes sense. You can change the thickness of it. So, and then a little too big. That's funny. That's a little better. When you like it, and then if you want, I can write on the picture, so you could write text on here. And then when you're done, you just hit save, hit OK, and then you just close it, and now we're in ScribeWare, and it's saved all the edits that you made in that other program. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, some guys, you know, I use it on most reports, not a ton because it's a bit time consuming, but you know, when you get complicated things, it's nice to do. Hot links, that's another thing we could talk about. Let's go to the deck section. Floor can't. Deck is attached to a floor cantilever. Boom, that's what I wanted. We're going to put this in. And now I had previously put a hot link into issues with attaching decks to floor cantilevers. If you guys aren't familiar with structure tech, Ruben writes some really good blogs that are nice to link to. And I try to write a bunch of my own. Been a bit busy, but I've been wanting to add some to ScribeWare. We're working on that. But he's got some great diagrams in here of the issue of what can happen of attaching a deck to a floor cantilever. So good thing to know about. And to that end, we're really working to make, if you're a newer guy, I mean, you could read through this library and learn just an insane amount of stuff. And we've actually been talking with Charlie Buell out here about, he's sort of interested in using ScribeWare. We have to make some changes for him, but ideally, we would bring him into the fold. His library would be an insane learning tool, but we're trying to make ScribeWare as much as possible a learning tool. And to that end, just a little sales pitch, but everybody who is a subscriber, not a pay-per-report person, but a subscriber to ScribeWare, we have access to upcodes where you can look up codes online. And so, and it's actually, I mean, it costs, it's like $50 a month or something. I was paying for it. So it was really nice to have access to this through ScribeWare. So once you're a subscriber, we'll get you a subscription. Oops, that's the wrong one.
So just before you go further, one of the challenges that I saw was, like, some people call a corbel a bracket, some people call a bracket a corbel, and one of the challenges I had with your photo comments or your save comments is that, you know, sometimes I would call, you know, something.
Yep. Yeah.
Just different apron flashing versus roof to wall flashing or whatever, you know. So that was a little bit of a challenge, especially when I was in my 9th hour writing that report, just pulling my hair out. So you know how bald I already am. So
no, I mean, and that's, you know, that's it's a good comment, and you know, it is why, you know, like any system, you just have to kind of polish it to make it fit your style. And you know, I view the library you get as kind of a starting place, and I would encourage you to change the language to suit you as much as possible, you know. And that's obviously a challenge, but I think that's going to be a challenge with any newer system to you, you know. Getting it to say, I mean, that's the real goal of ScribeWare, is that I want it to be your voice communicating with your client, you know. Like that's how you protect yourself and impress your clients, I think. So that's certainly the goal.
And those hot links are embedded in your native library to
they are
third-party websites?
Yeah, so when you start, you get that. But let's say you wanted to add a hot link. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. So here's a URL from my report that I just did. We can highlight it and we can copy it. And then when we're in ScribeWare working, I can highlight a bit of text. I can go up to this little link thing, and I can put the link in. And I'm not going to hit OK, but once you hit OK, then that text would be highlighted and underlined like this, so that it would be a hot link. Yeah, and so obviously you get the ones that I've put in already, but you know, a great sales feature for your business is to write your own blogs and then link to them, and it creates a whole back end of the report where there's, and that's, yeah, ideally to me the report is incredibly rich with information. The objective in my mind is that, the busy banker guy that has 5 minutes to make a decision can go to the summary page and look at the big items and move on. And the retired engineer guy that has, 10 hours to sit and read your report could keep clicking on things and finding more information. I want a report for both of those types of people. And I think the hot links are a great way to do that. You add all this back end information, and you could keep doing it endlessly. I mean, I've only just started, but yeah, whenever I find in fact, I posted something on our Facebook group just the other day of a link to here, I think it's in here. We could go to garage containment cables. So no safety wire or containment cable was noted, so I can click on this now, and that's going to bring me to a little YouTube video I found. I like this video because it's only a minute long. Some of these videos go on for like 10 minutes. But kind of sweet. Now there's a little video of how you install a containment cable, And that's another thing. In theory, you could make your own videos, And if you send them to me, I'd love it, and I'll put them in the library. Great way to promote your business and stuff. Kind of time consuming, but it's something I've been wanting to do. I just haven't had time for. Anyway, that makes sense?
Yeah.
This is the Washington State code, but this is what upcodes looks like. You type in attic access, and it will bring you to various codes and stuff for attic access. So a really sweet bonus benefit. I mean, I was paying for this just for my inspection company, and it's $50 a month to have this nice access. Unfortunately, Mike is in Kentucky, and I think it wasn't working as well for him. Mike, I did speak with Scott, who's the owner of Upcodes, and he said he was working on it, but I do think it's pretty amazing. They have all these codes uploaded, and you can sort through them. But I think there's certain areas of the country that they're not quite as on it. But anyway, that's Upcodes. So I love using that. I don't use it often, but when I need it, it's just great. I was picking a fight with a builder the other day who was pushing back on it didn't measure to me that you could get the furnace was located in the attic and you couldn't get it back out. And I'm like, well, click on my report and there's a link to the building code. I'm not making you do it. The building code says you have to do it. So I don't always put code in the report, but with Upcodes you can. Here, I'll show you guys how you do it. I just think it's awesome.
I like the argument about neutrals under one lug, in the panel, where an electrician will just tell you don't know what you're talking about, and then you just provide a little note, and they go, oh, okay. Because that was updated.
That's right. I mean, those kinds of things, when people start pushing back, it's incredibly valuable to be able to cite code and manufacturer's installation requirements.
But I do write a caveat that says this is not a code compliance check, or this is not a code check. This is just added information. So.
Yep. Yeah, and you hear all this stuff about all your liability from citing code. I mean, I wouldn't get into it in an intense way, but I think if you put a few codes in the report, as long as you're doing a good job, I really don't see how it increases your liability. But anyway, that's a business decision.
Hey, Dylan.
Yeah.
I can tell you that as far as the state of Kentucky, that we had the builders as an organization in Kentucky go to the Kentucky Board of Home Inspectors and tell them that your inspectors need to stop mentioning the word code.
Interesting.
Because you're not code enforcers, and we're going to cause you trouble if you don't.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and that's this is tricky stuff. I mean, we're not going to get to the bottom of this in this meeting, but none of my library has the word code in it. I don't think you'll find that anywhere in my library. And even when but here's how you do it. You can just, if you wanted to have this attic access code in, you can copy it and then you can paste it and put it right in the report, which is pretty cool. So you can go like this.
We always take the word code out and put standards.
Yeah, I use standard and non-standard as kind of my euphemism for it. I think that's great, Mike. And I would probably never use code, but again, every once in a while, if it's a new construction and I think the builder's going to push back and not do it for my client, I don't know. Here's what the code says, So I do it every once in a while. I will put a link to the code right in the report. I got so many things up, it's kind of being slow at the moment. But anyway, that's how you do it. This little link here, you can copy it, and then you can put it right into ScribeWare. So kind of a cool feature, I think. I'm going to get rid of this. Remove link. Cool. Anybody? Any other things we could talk about here? Or?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you did it when I was going over, because actually I was talking to a realtor about adding Fireblock to a chimney chase.
Nice. Yeah.
And, yeah, he didn't want to do it, but anyway. But back to the cover page of the finished report, you have the due diligence and all that. Could you go over what you kind of do? Like with because some of those are kind of the same, efficiency. You see what I'm saying? Like I keep pointing at the screen. I know you can't see me, but
yeah. Yeah, so like just distinguishing between these things and why I use different qualifiers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I put efficiency in because it occurred to me that, a house, if it has people out here really appreciate it. I mean, they want to know how to make their home more energy efficient, and it's easy to put a number of tips in. I could put more. I mean, you could put one like you could use. I mean, nowadays everybody uses LED light bulbs. I mean, what's really interesting, I was doing this efficiency stuff, right when I started my business like 17 years ago, and it was all kind of avant-garde stuff that's now basically like, well, everybody has LED light bulbs, and new construction, everything's super efficient. So in any event, but to me, efficiencies would be an example of something that's not really a repair item, but it's nice to have a list of things to make the building more energy efficient.
Like monitoring the attic and the crawl space insulation and weather stripping, just treating it like an exterior door.
Yeah, yeah. So you could not have it be a repair item, but something that makes the building more energy efficient. And I'll even put in like high flow toilets in an old building or some things like that. And you could make friendly, like, hey, you could call your local utility and look into an energy audit. And, that's one of those things, like your local utility might be offering some energy audit services, and you could find that link on their website, and you could make your own observation, and you could put a little note like, hey, you call PSE and make your house more energy efficient. So,
and like due diligences would be like, checking over caulking points of,
well, to me, I think of these, I love due diligence. And to me, there are things where I don't really know. And you, my client, need to go do more research to figure out whether it's an issue or not. So, I mean, buried oil tank would be like, I noticed the house has a buried oil tank. I recommend making sure that you have a decommissioning statement from the seller.
I see what you're saying.
Right, or soils engineering. Like, this house is on a steep cliff. I recommend inquiring with the seller to see if there's any engineering, and if there's not, retaining your own engineer.
I see. Or like if somebody has like a patio cover that doesn't look legit, might want to throw that in the due diligence, as in you might want to have this checked out for a permit kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Permits would be a great example. Like, was this permitted? You're trying to like pushing on people like, hey, you need to do some work of your own here. I can't know some of these things. So, yeah, I love due diligence. I think it's a nice qualifier. I don't use monitors all that much. My friend Charlie Buell thinks we should hardly ever use monitors, but I disagree with him. I mean, rodent monitoring for rodents, I mean, how else are you going to know? I mean, if a crawl space out here has just been cleaned up, I'll say, boy, this looks great. It's nice and clean, but I recommend setting and monitoring traps, excuse me, so that you can monitor it.
Could you use the monitors for also, like, if you see dried stains on the other sheeting of the roof or something like that? Could you use monitors for that too?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seasonal conditions,
We have that more than you guys probably do. So.
Yeah. So seasonal things, I would definitely, you could put those as monitoring items. I mean, it's hard. Like, if I'm in a crawl space that is dry when I'm there, but I see big tide lines that it's had water issues in the past, it's hard to know what qualifier to use. I think the use of the qualifiers to me is really important for creating clarity for the client.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to. That's where I'm trying to get to. Because like I said, I find myself a lot of times trying to pinpoint things as in, okay, major concern, repair, improve, that kind of stuff. So I'm not, because again, we're in that funny business of telling our clients what we want to do, but we also kind of not want to scare them off.
Yep.
Kind of thing. So. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, these are ways that you handle that. That's right. And sometimes you can kind of, I try to give some other things like monitors and due diligence and efficiencies so that not everything is a repair item, So then improvements are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, usually those to me are like modern code and it's an older building, or just sort of picky stuff. And then,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just see your AFCI now, and this is for everybody here, because nobody I talk to is like candid about the AFCI issue, as in, because everybody's saying, oh yeah, well, I bring it up, I make sure that, I know it's not a code, and I don't know if you guys are InterNACHI certified or ever, but you always see that Ben Gromyko guy always say, I always make sure I tell them, I'm trying to bring up houses up to code, or up to standards per se, and like with AFCI, I don't see any houses AFCI unless they're new. And is it something that we should be pointing out to the fact that these aren't AFCI?
Great question. Yeah. Well, the reason I put it in is, and this is going to depend your locality. We're on the 2015 IRC out here. And the huge deal with that is that it says that if you add a circuit to a building, it has to meet modern AFCI requirements. And I'm always trying to write reports a little bit thinking about the guy that's coming behind me that's going to try to throw me under the bus.
Yes.
And so part of me thinks, well, if I don't let them know that modern panels have AFCIs and that all the new wiring you would do would need AFCIs, I'm just visualizing the conversation they have with their electrician. And he's like, oh, this panel's not to code, and I'm going to have to do AFCI protection when we put, and it's like, well, now I'm kind of telling him, like, to me it's an improvement item if it's an older building. And you'll notice that this is a business decision I make, so that don't feel like there's a right or wrong answer here. But for me, GFCIs, I call a repair item most of the time because I just think they're cheap and easy and they save your life. I'm a little less convinced that $50 whack AFCI breakers are worth the cost. So I call that more of an improvement item. But I think it's an important thing. I like how I've put it in the report because it at least lets them know what the standard is today. But I'm not calling it a repair item just because it doesn't meet today's code.
I understand. Okay. Well, that's a good idea. Because like I said, I just, for some reason, when I'm new, I mean, even with my mentors or even when I speak to electricians, it's just such an iffy subject because I'll have some guys that say, don't worry about that. AFCIs stink. I don't know why they have them. They don't even work, kind of thing. But obviously they have to work because they would.
AFCIs, just so you know the history of it, they began, the first generation of them were called branch feeders. And those only worked for certain types of arcing. I think they were series arcs, if I remember right. But in any event, there's parallel arcs and series arcs, and the branch feeders would only work for one of those. So they did only work for certain types of arcing, and they had a lot of nuisance tripping. My understanding of how all this worked is that basically it was, remember when the code at one point, AFCIs were only required in bedrooms.
Yes.
And Doug Hansen's story of this was he was on the code committee and stuff, and basically the manufacturers were trying to ram it through the code so that we'd all have to buy these $50 breakers.
Yeah.
And people pushed back and said, well, these things don't even work. And so the compromise was that they're like, well, let's just make them required in bedrooms, and then we'll get better at making them, and then they'll get cheaper. And I would say that has largely, in my opinion, proven true. I mean, now they're called combination AFCIs, so they should do both series arcs and parallel arcs, and I think they're way more reliable than they used to be. I still think they're insanely expensive. I mean, they probably add $1,000 to the cost of building a house. But so anyway, I hope that's helpful. And this is my opinion on this at AFCI's. Unfortunately, I think I'm doing an electrical class with Charlie Buell on January 5th in Seattle, and Charlie's my go-to with electrical. He knows more about it than I do. But.
I appreciate that, and then, like I said, I take it all in, and I make adjusting, and I appreciate everybody's opinion on that, because, like I said, this is definitely a thing that you need to learn more every time. But it seems like you don't have, especially out in the desert, people don't want to help mentor ever, and
that's too bad.
This is definitely something you need to mentor more than anything, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
And I'm finding that anytime I see a flip and I don't see any arc fault or I don't see any GFI at the kitchen counter, I automatically say this house probably did not get a permit to proceed with this. And so, I mean, it's just a due diligence,
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good call. I did one yesterday that there were no permit stickers, panel was brand new, no AFCI protection, so I was all over that wiring system, and I must say it was done pretty well. I couldn't find much wrong with it. And then I found on the guy's lunch pail in the garage, it looked like he was part of like an electrical contractors union or something. So I think it was done by the homeowner, and maybe he didn't know, maybe he did commercial wiring, or who knows. Anyway, he didn't do AFCIs, but tricky stuff. Hard to, there's no one answer to that, but that's how I like to report on AFCIs. And I do think it's a good conversation I do try to think of what's going to happen when contractors show up at the house, and kind of trying to have my back covered for that. And a lot of that's just, I don't want egg on my face, and I don't want my clients to be upset. And it's nice to have that stuff in there.
Sounds good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody have any other questions, comments, ideas?
Hey, Dylan. Do you have a moment to just run through actual report delivery?
Yeah. So,
and one other thing, you had also removed a section off of the report, but yet you stated earlier that you did not actually need to remove it if you don't add any data to that chapter.
Well, yeah, that's because what I removed was a bathroom chapter, and if you look at the bathroom, a few of the things come pre-filled in.
Oh.
So that's why I had to remove the bathroom chapter. You see them by things pre-filled in, I mean these. So like, let's say, here, let's make a new bathroom chapter real quick. So this is our new bathroom chapter, but let's say you didn't want it to print. You just need to make sure none of the pull downs are filled in, and then it won't print. But
and then I'm sorry, and another question is, like, let's say that I did delete the crawl space. How do I pull the crawl space back into the report?
Well, don't delete the crawl space.
Oh, well, I won't now, but I mean, that was the 9th hour situation.
Yeah, geez, I don't know if Dan's still on here, but I don't know how I know Dan and Steve can get it back for you, but I don't know how I could.
Yeah, I am on, and yeah, we can pull it back on through the back end. But I mean, you would almost need to be copying over some other chapter and then try to fill it in with this information if you want to add it back into an existing report. But also, I just want to clarify, I think I caused confusion earlier with not needing to actually delete the chapters. That was specifically related to a limited inspection, which we've deliberately left all those pull downs empty for the limited inspection so that you don't need to go through and delete those. Those just won't show up because they don't have this pre-filled in information.
Great clarification. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey Dylan, I'm looking at you have the downstairs bathroom. I haven't been on ScribeWare for a while now, but is there a way we can edit is there a simple way to edit the downstairs bathroom? Like you said, is number one, can we make that say like a hall bathroom or?
Yeah, you just go up here.
Bathroom?
You can just.
Oh, it's just on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just click on it and type.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that. You can retitle any of these. You can retitle them if you want.
Oh, that's cool.
So we could call this the like studio kitchen or something.
Okay.
Yeah, simple. There was some other place I was going to that we were talking about. Publish. Oh, okay, a couple things. This I just adore, but we have a submit feedback button. So even if you're not online, Steve, I want this. You can let them know. You can hit submit feedback, and we at least get the information. So if you have ideas, if something's not working, or you get a bug or something, you can just give us feedback, and that really helps us, fix a bug or repair something for you. So if you lost your crawl space chapter, you could hit submit feedback. Help, Dan. I lost my crawl space, and you hit submit feedback, and Dan, Steve, and I all get those. So one of us will try to help you as soon as we can.
Hey, and just to build on that, Dylan, it's especially helpful to submit feedback as opposed to just emailing support@getscribeware.com or calling or something like this, because when you hit that button, it gives us just ready access to a lot of information about what report you're working on, and this various other info that if it is an issue you're running into, we can just get to it a lot quicker and understand all the pertinent information and be able to, troubleshoot as quickly as we can.
Awesome. That helpful, guys?
Yeah.
Pretty cool feature, though. I mean, you get to talk to your programmers, so real-time stuff. So when you're done with a report, like let's say we've finished this report now and we wanted to print it, it's going to look terrible. Well, let's go to a different one that I've finished. So we finished this report. You can just hit publish here. And that will publish the report. You can either send the email, so if you put in the client email and the agent email right in the report, you can publish and send email. Because Dan is working on that, it's still a little bit buggy. It works most of the time, but it hasn't been flawless. I prefer just publishing without sending an email. And so now it's publishing, it's loading all these files up to the cloud where everything is saved for you automatically. When you want to send it, you just click on this guy, and that highlights the link to the report. And then you can email it, or you can put it in ISN or whatever you use to deliver a report. So you're just delivering a link. That makes sense? There it goes.
Yeah, so you do practically, so you upload it first, and then you're copying and pasting a web address and emailing whatever format you want to communicate with them with a link.
Yeah, you're emailing a web address to people, a link, and it's all secure and in the cloud. Every once in a while you get a client who thinks that it's like live and anybody can find it, but it's totally secure. I mean, there's a unique code to get to it. So the link becomes the report. And if you wanted to, again, on a finished report, we can view this one. You can save the report as a PDF and send it to them that way if you want to. I do that every once in a while. I get some older client that just freaks them out having an HTML doc, so I send them the PDF.
Hey, Dylan, are you guys linked with ISN yet, or?
We're not. I use the ISN, but we're not linked with them. So I basically cut and paste like the client information and the property information. Dan, this is something that I think we already have this on our list, but we do want to link with ISN. I don't know how much time it would save you, but you don't have to, it would import, I assume, property address, client information,
It would just be something you won't have to worry about because you just publish it. It would all go through your ISN stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it'd be nice, It doesn't cost me a lot of time, but at the moment we're not linked.
Just wonder. Okay.
Yep.
And you did touch about the fact that the proposal stuff is still separate. You guys don't have a proposal yet?
No, and so I use the ISN for my contract delivery and everything. And Dan, maybe Dan's working on it. I think hopefully soon here.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have something ready for you to be testing, Dylan, prior to Christmas, and then obviously want to make sure all the kinks are ironed out before we send that out to everyone. But we're not too far off here.
Okay. And just to refresh my memory, are we able to do ScribeWare on iPads yet, or no?
That will be part of the mobile app. So at the moment, at the moment it will work on PCs and Macs, but not not iPad and not Android. But once we have the mobile app, then it'll be the whole shooting match.
Okay, because like I said, some things they treat iPads like desktop. So I was just wondering that.
That's right. I mean, they make kind of a nicer iPad that has like a keyboard and stuff. So in theory, we'll be able to use ScribeWare on that. But that's all mobile app stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay.
Let's see. Anybody have any other questions? Oh, this is one other thing. So for reinspect, sometimes when I do reinspect, I will just do an itemized limited inspection and write a separate report. But you can also do this. You can copy a report. And then when it copies, this might take a minute. It takes a little while. But anyway, once you're done... look at this while it does it. Once you're done copying the report, you can go through and let's go into the grounds sections. Let's say they fixed this. You could call it a completed item, and then you could even go through and highlight the text and cross it out. So kind of a way to go through and so you could either write a separate document or you could write on the existing document and show that work has been completed, and obviously then that changes the summary page. Isn't that cool?
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And plus, every once in a while you get asked to do the same house twice. It's kind of sweet to be able to copy the report. I mean, I still end up rejiggering a lot of things and putting in all new pictures, but it still saves you a little time.
Yeah, it seems like doing the same house twice is harder than just doing it the first time sometimes.
It is. It actually can be really hard. So here you can see the original one, and then it's updated the copy on a new date here. So anyway, kind of cool to be able to copy a report, I think. But yeah, you're right. It can be weird. I don't like doing the same house twice. It's just it can be funny. But anyway, it comes up.
How about the reinspection when you realize there's something else that you might have missed?
There's always something you missed. I mean, that's right. I've done enough of those to know. It's like I always miss something. I try to be really upfront about that with people. It's like this isn't about finding every single thing. It's helping you make a good buying decision. Anyway, cool guys. Well, I should probably get going here, but I really appreciate you guys. That was a good crowd. You guys asked great questions, and was this helpful? Would you like to do more of these? You want to keep rolling them out?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Awesome. Yeah, fun to all get together, and I like talking some of the big picture stuff, and then also nice to just talk ScribeWare stuff. So, cool. Well, thanks for coming along, guys, and feel free to. We've got a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, and we've got a Facebook page that you can become a member of. If you're a user, you have to be a user to be in our users group, but if you are, join it, and we can continue the conversation there. And let any of us know if you need anything.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
Thanks, Dylan.
All right.
Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, good to hear from everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye-bye.